Being cancer-free was the best day of my life. Hi, my name is Anna Leal, and I am a cancer survivor.
My name is Sahara. I am a nurse, and I was a caregiver for my dad.
Hi, my name's Serina. I am a cancer patient right now.
I'm the Reverend Dr. Dave Joynt, and I'm the pastor of Valley Presbyterian Church in Paradise Valley, Arizona.
It started out when I was in 6th grade. I would get severe headaches, and from there I got checked, got MRIs done and whatnot, and weeks later I got diagnosed that I had a tumor. From there they told me that I wasn't going to grow anymore and that I wouldn't live up to until age 14. So after I overcame that, when I was a freshman in high school, I got diagnosed with cancer. My tumor became malignant.
Have been dealing with my cancer for about 2 years. I was diagnosed in 2015, September. I have been through a lot of testing, a lot of overnights at the hospital, but for some reason I always find a way to just be positive. My cancer is very rare, so someone my age getting it is very rare. It can be very life-changing if you do not take care of yourself and you do not live a healthy life. If you're a very active person, it does help with this type of cancer to be active and keep going and be positive, or if not, you will be in bed. And that could be with any cancer, but mostly with this one, being healthy is a very major thing, and being positive.
His name was Alonso. He started getting very sick in January of 2015. We weren't really sure what was happening. We thought it was his back. He went and got procedures done, started feeling a little bit better, and then one day he just couldn't walk anymore, so we took him to the hospital. He was in so much pain, and they diagnosed him with renal cancer.
In 2001, I was pastoring a church in New Jersey. I'd been there for 4 years. Began to have back pains, and eventually was diagnosed with 4th stage non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Unfortunately, by the time we discovered it, it was really kind of late in the game. God blessed me with a wonderful oncologist. Medicine is a beautiful and a powerful thing to find a great healer. Her name was, we called her Dr. P. She prescribed a standard treatment, which was CHOP-R, a regimen of chemotherapy. I did that for 3 months in the fall of 2001. Lost 30 pounds in my hair, but kept on preaching through Christmas, only to be retested in January to discover that the cancer had come back. In fact, it was stronger than it had been originally.
And once I was diagnosed with cancer, it was really hard for me. But I overcame that, and I am alive, and I didn't think I was going to make it this far in life. And now I am going to school to become a nurse so I can give back to the community and so it can benefit me as a person.
I've been through some very random, weird testing. So I'd say that'd be like one of the #1 scary things about being a cancer patient is the testing you have to go through. And I guess how long do you have to go through testing for them to figure things out? It can seem like forever, but if you be patient, there definitely is answers. And it's not going to be with one doctor, it's not going to be with one nurse or with one hospital, it's going to be with the 3rd or the 4th. But you just have to keep trying and keep asking questions, because there's never enough to know about it. And I'd say my #1 weapon against my cancer is research. Research everything and anything and be positive, because it's never easy, and it's never going to be easy. Nothing in your life is going to be easy. It doesn't matter what it is, it doesn't matter what age you are, or if you have kids, or if you've been a nurse like me for a long time. I've always took care of people. And I think that's one of my major things is giving that back, is knowing that it's okay for people to take care of me too, not just for me to take care of them. Because that's my hardest thing, is letting go of my responsibilities. As a mother, I have 5 kids. So it's not easy to be told, go lay down, you can't do this, you can't take care of the kids today because you're stumbling, or you can't walk around good. But it's okay to have those days. It's okay to not feel well for a week or 3 days or a month. Just keep doing it and know that there's so many people that love you and that care for you. Let them care for you. Let them do what they need to do to care for you, because that's their way of giving it back.
So now we were in desperate territory. There were just a few weeks of life left. There wasn't a medical intervention. And I went to Fox Chase in Philadelphia, the biggest cancer center there, and was told by Dr. Smith, the head of their lymphoma service, that I was untreatable because the disease had advanced too far. My church didn't accept that diagnosis and began to pray 24 hours a day. Everyone would take a 20-minute slot all throughout the day and the night. And as I was leaving Dr. Smith's office, I had asked him a final question. I'd said, Doctor, if you were me, what would you do? And somewhat ironically, he'd said, well, if I were you, I'd go to Sloan Kettering, which is the famous cancer center in New York City. So I had a name of a doctor there and a place to go, and technically, medically, really not much hope going forward. I met the doctor in New York, and he said to me, I'll never forget, very blunt man, Dr. Moskowitz, he said, well, you're dying, but we'll give you the king of chemos, and if we get a certain opening, a hesitation in the disease, we'll do a transplant. You may not know what a transplant is, but it's a radical way of treating cancer in which patients receive lethal doses of chemotherapy and radiation. And then there's an intervention that happens where either someone else's bone marrow cells or your stem cells are put into your body in lieu of your own, because the treatments that you're given kill your bone marrow. And your bone marrow is what produces both your red blood cells that give your body oxygen and your white blood cells that give it defense against disease. So the idea is to kill the cancer, keep you alive, and then re-inject the cells which will become bone marrow cells.
The treatments that I went through was horse therapy at first. Once I had that, I had chemotherapy, I had radiation. At the time when I got diagnosed with my tumor, I had to have growth hormone injections, so that was part of my therapy as well. I had a battery of medications.
It was too advanced. It was a very aggressive type of renal cancer. So they sent us here to Tucson, Arizona to see the oncologist and the right doctors to get procedures done. But by the time we could get the appointments done, he needed to be admitted, and he didn't get the procedures done that he needed. His cancer was very advanced. They stabilized him, sent him home. We went to go see the oncologist, who had an experimental drug for him, but there were things that needed to happen before he could be on the drugs. There needed to be labs, there needed to be x-rays, and that took time. It didn't take too long, but it was enough time for my dad to get even sicker. He deteriorated very fast. So from June of 2015 to August of 2015, he was hospitalized a total of 3 times, and the last time he was hospitalized, he went into renal failure, and there was really nothing that could be done, not even the experimental drug, that if anything would have extended his life. It wasn't going to cure him. It was very hard on everybody, especially him, knowing that he wasn't able to be put on that drug. He got so sick so fast, he was not given that opportunity. Even then, we didn't understand what that drug would have done for him. So the last weeks he was here in Tucson, we had meetings with the doctor so they could clearly explained to him and the family what it meant to not be on those experimental drugs, what it meant to have renal failure, and my dad had living will and everything done, and we decided to go home to be with family, see the rest of his family, and we decided to do hospice care. And I think it's a horrible thing to go through, to see your loved one suffer, someone that doesn't deserve to suffer like that. I did have my special moments with him. I was able to say goodbye more than once. We prayed. I told him how great of a dad he was and that I have a wonderful life thanks to him. I took care of him from the moment he was diagnosed. My husband allowed me to go be with my dad his last couple of days, and I took care of him 100%. And that is when I knew why I was a nurse. This was my purpose, if anything, was to take care of my dad and treat him with dignity and respect. It was, cancer is horrible. I wish he didn't have to have gone through that. But I am happy that he is resting now, that he is no longer in pain.
When I was first diagnosed, I was in the hospital for a stomach infection, so it was totally random and just out of the norm. They did something so weird. It was a colonoscopy, which is like an embarrassing thing, but you know, we all got to go through it around, you know, our mid-age, so it's kind of an okay thing. And they found a cluster of tumors. At first, they kind of thought, you know, this is just normal, it's just a polyp, let's take it out. So they took it out, sent it to pathologist, and when they came back that it was carcinoid cancer. It was a cluster of tumors. So the doctor decided, you know, let's take this out. But before I got a chance to get my cancer taken out, I was very, very sick. I was in bed for, I'd say, about 8 months. I lost about 60 pounds, and I had all my family here in Arizona. So we moved my 5 kids and my husband, moved all of our children back from Colorado to Arizona to be with our family. We started going to MD Anderson. It was actually a really good hospital, really good doctors, really good staff, good people. They make you feel very comfortable, and they're very knowledgeable. They just keep you learning, which is great. I'd say the scariest point of finding out was not knowing. So that's why I say research. As soon as they tell you whatever it is, you got Google. Look it up, because you can figure out anything on your own too. And then you just ask them questions. So going through treatment is not as rough as people think all the time, because there's very many different kinds of medication. I started a new medication, which is an injection. It's once a month, and they also have where you inject yourself at home every 6 hours. To your comfort level, what keeps you comfortable. It could be rough to have to do that yourself, but if you want to be comfortable and be okay and be at home, you'll be able to do it.
So I agreed to this treatment, and I did the King of Chemos. We got that little window, and then I went to collect with my wife stem cells in New York City. It was a week-long process. It was intended to be Monday to Friday, 8 hours a day, and the goal was to get 1 to 2 million stem cells, which could be put back into my body at the right time of the treatment. Well, on the first day, I was in the center and getting started, and next to me was another man, Mike, and his wife, Kathy, who's an FBI agent. We were separated by a tiny barrier, and we just pulled back the barrier and began to pray for each other. Made a little circle there. I think probably the folks in the center thought we were a little bit odd. But amazingly, the next day I was woken up by a phone call from the woman who ran the center. And she said, Dr. Joynt, don't come in today. And I said, ma'am, I have to get these stem cells. It's life and death. The transplant time is coming. And she said, no, you're not following what I mean. We got 16.5 million stem cells from you yesterday, the most we ever got in 35 years of treatment at Sloan Kettering. And we got the same number from the guy that you were praying with, from Mike. So the combination of amazing medicine and some really incredible divine interventions was the thing that was encouraging us as we went into the actual transplant. So I did massive radiation. I did 16 minutes of radiation, total body, morning and evening for a week. I lost another bunch of weight. I was down to 123 pounds, having started at 185. And I'll never forget, on the final day of the radiation, my wife was coming up to the city for that last afternoon treatment. And on the morning of that treatment, I was waiting in my room to go down to the basement, where what was awaiting me was a big room with a door like a bank vault. And the technicians would put you into that room and stand you up and then leave the room because of the danger of the radiation. The door would shut and there you'd be. So I was awaiting that, and the woman who was the tray lady for my floor in the hospital, she'd been doing it for 35 years, she came into the room, she looked at me a little oddly, and she said, I have a word for you from God. And I said, you do? And she said, yes. Do you want to hear it? I said, yes, I do. And she came over and laid her hands on me and said, I've been praying for you, and I know that you're going to be well. You're going to go back to your ministry and back to your family. So you can imagine how emotional that moment was. My biggest fear in New York had been that I'd be isolated and alone and wouldn't know anyone. And in Toms River, New Jersey, I had a whole congregation of 3,000 people that were cheering for me. But here, in the lonely big city of New York, I was alone in this isolation doing the treatment. And here was a wonderful person that actually had been praying for me every day. So I began to weep, and when I cleared the tears out of my eyes, she had left, and another woman had come in to clean the bathroom, and it was her first day of work. And she was African American, and she sounded a little bit like an African American preacher when she said to me, "Are you ready?" And I said, "Ready for what?" And she said, "Ready to hear a word from God." I said, "Well, I guess I am. I just heard one previously." She said, "I want you to know that God goes with us into the valleys. He's with us beside the still waters and in the green pastures, but he also is with us in the valley of the shadow of death." And she said, "Pastor, do I have an amen?" I said, "Amen, sister." So she also prayed for me, and just a wonderful moment. And so when my wife came in at lunchtime, I told her these stories. I said, "You can't believe it. The preacher's been preached to all day long, and God has his people all over this hospital. It's wonderful."
School for me was really hard because at the time I was only 14, a freshman, and I had to be homeschooled the second semester of my freshman year. So that was really hard for me because I was really social, I was really active in school. And for me, having to be from a social person, active person, to being in bed rest, being not able to move, incapacitated, it was really hard for me. Once I got back into school, I was able to get through school and graduate on time and everything.
My support system is fabulous, and I thank so many people for the things they've done for me. My mom, Mary, she's done pretty much anything and everything. She's changed her work schedule. She stays home 3 days a week so she can take care of me and help me with the kids and their schedules. My husband, Josh, he's done amazing things too. My dad, Henry, he's done amazing things. My sister, Angel, my best friend, Serina, and I'd say the Stoner High Girls, definitely, which is a modeling group I'm part of. They're great, good group of sisters that very much inspire me and just keep me going. They make me, all these people make me just feel alive and make me want to do every day over and over again. And I thank them for that, definitely.
So as we went down for the final treatment, I was in a wheelchair getting ready to go down there. We arrived and met the technicians, and my wife is not a shrinking violet. She went into the room where the treatment was given. She found a stereo, and she put a CD into their stereo that was a gospel CD, a big choir, the Tabernacle Choir in Brooklyn, singing "He is Able." So my wife and the technicians left the room, and I was kind of trying not to dance, and out of the music I was supposed to stay very still. And after the 16 minutes were over, the final treatment, my wife and the technicians came back, and the technicians said, you know, this is kind of against hospital policy, but we wanted you to know that we felt called by God to pray for you this week, and we want to lay our hands on you. And we've got a message for you that you're going to get better. So the medical odds were still great, but I just knew that God was involved in the medicine. He was surrounding me with love and care and provision, and sure enough, we beat the odds and got a remission, which the doctors thought might only last for a year, because I had actually 2 types of lymphoma, and one, if you can beat it, it was a fast-growing kind, and if it's not there in a year or a year and a half, you might be cured. That was the case, but they told me the other kind, the slow-growing kind, is almost never cured, and there's really no chance that that would ever go away. It would have to be managed. But here I am 15 years later, and it's been declared a cure. It's never come back. And I'm grateful to the great doctors that I had, Dr. P and Dr. Moskowitz, the great teams that helped in all of that treatment, but also to our great and gracious God who was present throughout all of it.
My biggest support was my mom. My mom never left my side. She was always with me, and it was a huge help. I'm her first child, so I'm like everything to her. I have a sibling, but I'm the oldest child. So when she found out that I was healthy again and cancer-free, she was overly excited. She was so happy.
Well, that is my story, and I hope that there will be a cure someday, because no one deserves to go. Not just the patient, but it affects the entire family. At different levels, it affects everybody that is loved.
Being cancer-free was the best day of my life. The day they told me was incredible. I cried because I was so happy. I didn't think I was gonna make it through and get through it, but I did.